Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the coursework. This time, Chapter 5, Digital Security, Ethics, and Privacy. This is all about threats. So you can use a lot of this material in your end of course final project. So listen closely. Frankly, this kind of security conversation should be done throughout this entire course. The fact that they boiled it into a chapter means please listen up, listen carefully for how can you protect your home network and or your work network. So as this is all very important. As Albert Einstein stated, it's not that I'm so smart, but it's that I stay with the question much longer. What a great quote. So this will mirror our journey in cybersecurity. We want to stay with it much longer. Okay. So here we go. Digital security is an all-encompassing term, which includes the tools you can use to secure your identity, your assets, your technology, in an online and mobile world that we live in. These tools can be used to protect your identity and include antivirus software, web services, biometrics, all of which we're going to talk about, and secure your personal devices you carry with you every day. Personal devices for use by yourself and for work. So digital security seeks a balance then between access and safety of your machine and its data. We can turn it all off, or we can turn it all on. Or, better, we can strike a balance. This is what this chapter is all about, the balance that allows us to do work and yet stops cybercrime in its various forms. So a digital security risk, then, is important to start out with, is an event that can cause a loss or damage to the computer hardware, the software, data, information, or your processing capability, which frankly will be much of the topic in Chapter 6. So digital security seeks that balance between these two so that we can be very efficient and very informed and yet extremely safe. Okay, there are a number of terms that we want to know up front. Who's the audience, right? Who are we about or after or stopping? So cyber criminals use crimeware. This is a software. They'll use this sometimes to conduct illegal acts on the internet. There are various names for the different purposes or levels of skill, like a script kiddie. Script kiddies typically have an unsophisticated skill level and rely on the tools that you can find out on the internet. You can Google tools to find out how to do illegal things. They're often motivated by the thrill of the chase and by the need to prove that they can do it. For the most part, script kiddies have limited time and, frankly, financial resources, which is good. Now, hacktivists, these are activists that use hacking techniques to promote their own political or social agenda. Their activities can cause a denial of service called DOS or dedicated or deliberate denial of service, DDoS attacks. And they can place embarrassing posts on websites or social media sites of an organization without opposing views. They often believe they are engaging in a righteous and morally correct cause, even if their activities are illegal. So, like script kiddies, activists often have limited time and financial resources, but a hacktivist within a sophisticated or large organization may have significantly more resources. Now, insider attacks are perpetrated by people within an organization. There are many possible motives, including promotion of an activist agenda, maybe a monetary reward or retaliation for not being selected for promotion, or some other situation that causes the insider to become disgruntled with the organization. They typically have limited resources, but given that they may already have substantial knowledge of the organization and the network, they are particularly dangerous. Now, there's also competition. Competition attacks are the modern version of industrial espionage. Theft of intellectual property, marketing plans, customer lists. These are all examples that can have devastating effects on the targeted organization. Even stealing the victim's company credit card list can have severe economic impact on a company. So often the attacking company will find a disgruntled individual in the subject company to carry out the attack. So that would be an insider threat. Now, organized crime also is carried out in the cyber attack world for the sole purpose of monetary gain, right? Organizations like the mafia, maybe Russian organized crime, the Japanese Yakuza and drug cartels, sometimes they have significant resources in terms of time and money to recruit hackers to carry out their agenda. And finally, I just want to touch on APT, or Advanced Persistent Threats. These are really nation-state driven, and they're attacks conducted by one nation upon another, upon a significant entity within the target country, in some sort of large and coordinated attack. So just interesting to be aware of who is coming at us and what is their agenda. So then the malware, now that we know who's attacking us, we'll understand what are they attacking us with. Well, malware types should match the descriptions in the following manner, right? And of course, all of these will be discussed in more detail later in the chapter. But malware essentially is just, it's short for malicious software. It's whatever program they're going to use to get at you without your knowledge, right? It can be adware or a botnet or a rootkit or a worm. We're going to talk about all those in detail in the coming slides. So for example, if I'm purchasing a server from an unverified vendor, maybe eBay or some other third-party marketplace, could mean buying hardware that has been pre-infected with rootkits or keyloggers, logging every key I make, including passwords and other types of malware. So there are technical controls, which we'll discuss later, and they include things like IDS, Intrusion Detection System, or IPS, Intrusion Protection System. IDS is Intrusion Detection System. Firewalls and anti-malware, that's really what we'll focus on in this course. And this is one way to stop that payload, right? Another is just simple human intelligence. By not opening odd emails or attachments or going to sites likely infected by malware will do a lot of good in stopping that process. Now, these are some of the various definitions. I would ask you to review them at your leisure. Make sure you understand them. Note that a rootkit or Trojan horse, for example, they can also operate as a backdoor. So a hacker, what they might do is they're going to launch an attack. They know they'll be stopped, but as long as they can get in and they're stopped before there's too much damage, right? You feel like, hey, we did something good here. But what the hacker's really done is they have created a backdoor in the attack. So they know you'll stop their initial attack, but that attack really creates another program that will open up a backdoor for them to come back later. Like they might open up an admin level account in this approach. Okay. So, oops, kind of jumped ahead there. There we go. Now, so if you think your computer has been infected, I would offer that you could Google any solution on the internet, right? But use this step-by-step guide to learn how to remove malware from Mac and PC computers. First, you want to disconnect from the internet. Then you want to enter a safe mode. Then you want to avoid logging into accounts during the malware removal. You want to check your activity monitor and run then the malware scanner. And then finally clear your cache. So in the end, don't open the attachment, don't click the links to things you are unfamiliar with. But if that happens, there are some steps. You can Google those if you need a refresher. Now, we have to continue to understand the language and the terminology. So a botnet is a group of computers that are hacked when a malicious program is installed on them, and then they are remotely triggered by some command and control feature. So a bot is actually a program that does repetitive tasks. So it's just going to repeat, repeat, repeat. And the infected computer is actually called a zombie, right? And multiple computers that are affected are called a zombie army. And these can lead to a DOS or DDoS attack, which is going to resolve this denial of service in loss of sales, reputational issues. It can be devastating. Now, a denial of service attack occurs when a hacker floods the network with requests so that the legitimate users, like me, a customer, cannot gain access to the resources on a computer or a network. So a zombie army then, as I mentioned, is used in a DDoS attack. Hacktivists are activists who use hacking techniques to promote their own political and social agendas, I mentioned. Their activities can cause DOS or DDoS attacks, or as I mentioned, even place embarrassing posts on websites or social media sites of an organization without opposing views. Now, spoofing attack, also referred to as a masquerading attack. This is where a person or a program successfully pretends to be another person or program, right? And the source IP address in the attacker's IP datagram, this package transmitted over the internet that your computer does want, right, is spoofed or modified to imitate a real IP address of the packet from the originator, right? So the result is that the target computer is communicating with the actual attacker's computer, but it thinks it's your computer that it's talking to, because they've taken this little packet that was traveling across the internet and put their own IP address inside of it. And that then becomes a man-in-the-middle attack. A man-in-the-middle attack is an example of spoofing, as well as session hijacking, where I took over your session. A session is you and Walmart, right? If you are communicating back and forth with Walmart servers, buying something, and that's a session, and the man in the middle intercepts that, puts their own IP address in there, and takes over because they have spoofed you. Okay? So we'll mention then, for the final course project that you're working on, please review some of these items. IT 1-2 back in Chapter 1, IT 5-2, and the personal firewall information on page 5-8. I offer that as a helpful technique. Now, moving on to ways that we can protect ourselves, right? A firewall is useful. A firewall is a system that provides the network security because it's filtering at various locations like the computer. You can have a firewall on your computer that filters traffic. Or you can have a firewall on the network is another type to look at all incoming and outgoing network traffic based on a set of user-defined rules, whatever rules you define. In general, the purpose of a firewall is to reduce or eliminate the occurrence of that unwanted network communications while allowing all legitimate communications to flow freely. There are three basic types of firewalls to be aware of. They're used by companies to protect their data and devices, to keep the destructive elements out of the network, right? So you want to filter packets. You can do stateful inspections. That's for beyond this course, but just interesting if somebody wanted to look it up. And of course, proxy server firewalls, right? These topics are largely beyond this class. The good news is that Windows and Mac OSs, or operating systems, which most of us run our computers on, include firewall capabilities. So your own home computer router even normally has a built-in firewall. So the router you got from your internet provider, if you didn't go out and buy your own, it has a firewall in it, which can be used in addition to your own personal firewall. And just touching on proxy servers, they retrieve content from me, the client, and they can act like me. They can go out to the internet. So it's not actually me connected to the internet, but I'm connected through a proxy server, which is a firewall, which is then reaching out to the internet. So if I'm attacked, it's actually my proxy getting attacked. Okay, let's take a quick break there. We'll come back for another session on Chapter 5.